Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The central Syrian city of Hama falls to Islamist-led rebels as forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad pull back just days after losing Aleppo in a blitz. The Central Bank of Bangladesh begins printing new currency notes without the image of the nation's founder Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. French President Emmanuel Macron is to address the nation a day after a no-confidence vote toppled his Prime Minister Barnier's government. And India's space agency ISRO successfully launches two Proba 3 mission satellites of the European Space Agency from Sriharikota for groundbreaking solar research. First up, the Syrian army has acknowledged that it had lost control of the strategic central city of Hama for the first time since the war broke out in 2011 amid a lightning rebel offensive. This marks a second major gain for a newly formed rebel coalition that also captured Aleppo last week. Aleppo, Syria's second largest city, was recaptured last week by rebel groups after a surprise offensive overran President Bashar al-Assad's forces and allied militias. Meanwhile, the Syrian rebels released a video showing military vehicles inside Hama. The offensive has been a major setback for Assad and his backers in Iran and Russia and has reignited a civil war that had been largely dormant for years. In addition, there is information that Syrian air defenses shot down two enemy drones over Damascus, which is the capital of Syria, further south on Thursday. That's what state news agency Sana has reported, citing a military source. Also in a major development, Central Bank of Bangladesh is printing new currency notes without the image of former Bangladesh President Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Currently, currency notes of all denominations have had an image of Sheikh Rahman. According to Bangladesh Bank, the banknotes of Taka 20, 100, 500 and 1000 are being printed with religious structures, Bengali traditions and graffiti drawn during the July uprising. The new notes are expected to be released in the market within the next 6 months. The officials concerned of the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance said the image of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman will be removed from the current notes. The release added that the design of the four notes is being changed first and the design of all types of banknotes will be redesigned in phases. Let me now take you across to DD India's Naval Singh Parmar joining us from Dhaka. What more can you tell us about this change? Was it something that was expected? Because it's been also about, apart from changing regimes, what had happened since July in Bangladesh has been also a bit about rewriting history.
Post 5th August, there are many people and are in demand to erase the memories of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He is considered as a father of nation, but then after the interim government cancelled some of the public holidays linked with the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, but in case of currency they couldn't do immediately because it is they were taking time to stabilize their regime, but now they are in the mood to change the design of currency note, and particularly they want to erase the legacy of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. They are planning to replace currency notes with the image of July uprising and the other cultural images and the Bengali nationalism. So in this way, the current regime under the Sheikh Mujibur, under the Professor Muhammad Yunus, are in the mood to erase the legacy of the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
What can we surmise from this about the priorities of the interim government, which is being led by a Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus, where you have a country where the government has very little control over the law and order situation. The economy is also suffering in the wake of what has happened since July, and yet there are expenses to be made for changing banknotes.
Actually, in Bangladesh, there are many political groups here active in Bangladesh. They were against the Awami League government in Awami League political party and Sheikh Hasina. So all the groups and the political parties here in Bangladesh, their single agenda is to keep Awami League away from the national politics of Bangladesh. And every group and every sorts of political party have their own priorities and their own sets of agenda. So some are the highly radical, some are the moderate, some are the liberal, but they have their own agenda and they are part of this government. Indirectly or directly, they are involved with the Professor Yunus-led interim government. So each party or each group is having working as an individual pressure group. So they have own agenda and they are pursuing their agenda, and Professor Yunus is, in that case, he is helpless. He is not having a clear priorities in his, he may be having, but he is not in a position to implement the priorities his interim government is having, because he is dependent on the other pressure group and political parties who are supporting him from outside the government.
I believe we had an all-party meeting as well today, where again the Awami League and its allies were not invited, and these were for consultations on what to do about the law and order situation in the country. Did you hear anything as to what the government intends to do to ensure that minorities are, the rights are protected, their safety and security is ensured?
The outcome of the yesterday's all-party meeting, excluding Awami League and its allies, was to counter the whatever the things going on in Indian media. They think that Indian media is spreading misinformation in India and other part of the world. So their solo agenda now is to counter the world view or world perspective about the Bangladesh. So collectively they have decided that we will put forward our views or our thinking about the issues in Bangladesh, or how they are ruling the Bangladesh, how the law and order situation here in Bangladesh. So that was the collective voice. But the undercurrent is there all the political parties or these people who are now in the interim government are backed by the students organization, and there are 19 students organization active, major 19 student organization who are active in Bangladesh, and there is a big rift between them.
Right.
Chhatra Dal is a Bangladesh Nationalist Party is a student wing, and the other students organization, which are considered as one of the major organizations, they are not having a good terms with the student against the discrimination who led this movement. So there is a big rift among the all the student organizations. So they want to cover this rift superficially. They want to show that everything is fine here in Bangladesh. But in student there is a big rift, and 1 week back there were a huge protest, huge cases between the student organization, and in that protest around 15 to 20,000 students were fighting on the streets of Dhaka. And in that, it is publicly, it is not in public domain, but there are reports that many people lost their lives. More than 10 students lost their lives in last week. So these are the things happening in Bangladesh. Things is not in a perfect way or what they are claiming, but the issues which is in public domain, it is different, and the real issues are different.
Right, clearly a very strange and sad situation in Bangladesh, about which also reflects certain skewed priorities as far as the interim government is concerned. Thanks a lot for joining us, Naval Singh Parmar from Dhaka. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron will address the nation on Thursday night, a day after Prime Minister Michel Barnier was ousted in a no-confidence vote. Names for a new Prime Minister were swirling before Barnier even tendered his resignation, including Defence Minister Sébastien Lecornu, Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau and centrist former presidential candidate François Bayrou. The Indian Space Research Organisation, or ISRO, has successfully launched Europe's Proba 3 satellites into Earth's orbit. This groundbreaking mission is a collaboration between ISRO and the European Space Agency. The mission aims to demonstrate advanced formation flying technology with two satellites, the Chronograph spacecraft and the Occulta spacecraft. These satellites will work in tandem to create artificial solar eclipses, allowing scientists to study the sun's corona without interference from its bright disk. The Proba 3 mission is a significant collaboration, marking the first satellite launch between the two agencies since 2001.
The PSLV C-59 Proba 3 mission is successfully accomplished. The spacecraft has been placed in the right orbit, which is a very highly elliptical orbit of almost 600 km perigee. That's the closest point to Earth, and 60,000 kilometers at its apogee, the farthest point, and an inclination of 59 degrees. It has been precisely achieved by PSLV in its 61st mission. So congratulations to the entire PSLV project team as well as for Proba team. And we wish all the very best to Proba for their further operations and achieving the mission goals. Congratulations to both the teams.
The winter session of India's Parliament entered its 9th day on Thursday. In the Rajya Sabha, the Upper House, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, while replying to a question, clarified the stand of the government on issues related to Israel and Palestine. He said Israel has always been India's strong ally against terrorism, and added that since India is not a member of the International Criminal Court, it's not bound by any decisions regarding Israel and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
India is not a member of the International Criminal Court. When the International Criminal Court was constituted, the question of our membership was considered. For very good reasons, after a great deal of deliberation, India decided not to become a member. So, with regard to any decision passed by the ICC, it is not binding on us. So, it is not a matter on which we have taken a formal position.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi's India First policy and the Make in India initiative at the 15th VTB Russia Calling Investment Forum. President Putin acknowledged India's efforts to foster a stable environment for growth, emphasizing how these policies have contributed to India's development. He stressed that the Make in India initiative, aimed at boosting manufacturing and attracting foreign investment, has played a key role in strengthening India's position in the global economy. Kuwait's foreign minister has called India a very important partner and praised Prime Minister Modi, saying that the West Asian nation believes the Indian leader is one of the wisest persons in the world. Abdullah Ali Al Yahya is in India on an official visit that aims to strengthen the multifaceted relationship between the two countries. And Bhutan's King Jigme Kheser Namgyal Wangchuk is in New Delhi on a two-day visit. The king met Prime Minister Modi on Thursday. The PM took to social media and said that he was delighted to welcome the King and Queen of Bhutan to India. He said that India remains committed to advancing the unique and enduring partnership between India and Bhutan. And later in the day, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar also called on the Bhutanese king. Both leaders discussed the steady progress that India-Bhutan partnership is making. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Impeachment looms for South Korean President Yoon after his botched-up bid to impose martial law in the nation. UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer promises measurable milestones to rebuild Britain 5 months after his party's election victory.
जिंदगी की हर छोटी बड़ी जरूरत के लिए आप जो सपने सजाते हैं, बस उसी उम्मीद को तो हम सहारा लगाते हैं। SIP आपकी सेविंग्स को आपकी खातिर काम पर लगाएगी। आज ही अपनी पहली SIP की शुरुआत करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने वित्तीय सलाहकार से परामर्श करें। LIC म्यूचुअल फंड द्वारा निवेशक शिक्षा की एक पहल।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिम के अधीन है। योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday vowed to fulfill his priorities for rebuilding the country, presenting voters with goals for better living standards and increased home building. 5 months since his Labour Party won a landslide election win, Starmer set out firm targets, something he hopes will allow voters to measure his government's success in meeting his so-called missions before Britain's next vote due in 2029.
You walk around our country, you look at our infrastructure, and it is clear almost immediately that we have long freeloaded off the British genius of the past because we won't build a future. We haven't built a reservoir for over 30 years. And even the projects we do approve are fought tooth and nail and tooth until you end up with the absurd spectacle of a £100 million bat tunnel holding up the country's single biggest infrastructure project.
The protesters gathered in front of South Korea's National Assembly on Thursday as opposition lawmakers said they would vote this weekend to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol for his attempt to impose martial law in the country. Yoon's declaration of martial law late on Tuesday sought to consolidate power, ban political activity and censor the media. It sparked outrage in the streets and concern among South Korea's international allies. Lawmakers of the opposition Democratic Party plan to seek a vote in parliament to impeach Yoon on the 7th of December. Meanwhile, South Korea's Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun has resigned on Thursday as well after the turmoil because of his role in the imposition of the martial law. And South Korea's parliament on Thursday formally introduced a motion to impeach President Yoon, setting the stage for a historic vote which could oust him following the failure of his short-lived attempt to declare martial law. Yoon's declaration of martial law late on Tuesday attempted to ban political activity and censor the media in South Korea. The shock move divided Yoon's ministers and unleashed 6 hours of political chaos. Now, big developments have been coming in from Malta, where today Russian and Ukrainian foreign ministers are attending a summit together and will mark the first time the Russian FM has entered the European bloc since the 2022 Ukrainian war. For more on this, we are joined by DW's Wada Imran in Berlin. How are you, Wada? Tell us about the significance of the summit where Ukrainian and Russian foreign ministers both are going to be present.
Thanks for having me. Malta is hosting the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, or the OSCE, a summit which both top Russian and Ukrainian diplomats will be in attendance. This includes Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his Ukrainian counterpart Andrei Sybiha. Also present at the summit will be U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Russia's Lavrov is under sanctions in the EU and was last in the region in the year 2021. Russia was blocked from attending last year's OSCE summit. And the kind of idea behind the summit was to ease tensions and open channels of communication between the East and the West during the Cold War. This is when the OSCE was set up. Today, it includes 57 members. Russia has accused this organization of going through an institutional crisis and says it's just a way for Western countries to market their interest. And Ukraine, on the other hand, has called for Russian membership to be stripped.
And Warner, Germany's foreign minister will also be attending this summit, her last round of visits before leaving the post. What will Germany's stance be here?
Yes, it's time for the departure for Germany's current government, and Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is on her last few trips as foreign minister. At this year's OSCE, Baerbock will carry the message that Germany stands firmly behind Ukraine and will work tirelessly to ensure Russia's actions don't undermine the OSCE. But the thing is that this organization and this summit appear to be largely symbolic, as the OSCE is in some kind of paralysis and unable to do much because of a financial and leadership crisis. The top 4 positions of this organization are currently vacant, and money is tight to do much. Although Germany did contribute 17 million euros to keep the missions moving. Russia tends to veto certain motions, exercising their right, but still stopping any big proposals that could bring meaningful change.
Wada Imran, thank you so much for joining us from Berlin. Now, the newly elected chairman of the International Cricket Council, Jai Shah, began his tenure this week with a visit to the ICC headquarters in Dubai. During his visit to the ICC headquarters, Shah met with board directors to discuss his vision for the future of cricket. He also met with ICC staff and engaged with the ICC's media rights partners at the annual broadcast workshop hosted in Dubai. These interactions offered a stage to discuss strategies, strengthen partnerships, and discuss the sport's future. And for the 6th time in a row, world champion Ding Liren and T. Gukesh played out a draw at the World Chess Championship. After the 9th game, both players head into the 3rd rest day of the championship, level on 4.5 points each. There are 5 more games left before tie breaks, which will be played out in the rapid format. Out of the 9 games played, 6 have ended in a draw, with Liren securing victory in the opening game and Gukesh winning the 3rd game. The first player to reach 7.5 points will win the title. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platforms. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you want great content for free, then download Waves today. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. For all the latest, keep watching DD India.